Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kelly Green Hour as we are here to continue to discuss the spiraling out of control 2023 Philadelphia Eagles season. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co host, Connor Donald. And Connor, we were 10-1 like a month ago. Now the Eagles are 10-5, not going to be the number 2 seed, probably won't win the division, so won't be the number 3 seed. We'll have to go on the road in the wild card of the playoffs, probably to Tampa or New Orleans, and they're probably going to get smoked because this team is a bad football team right now. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. I mean, like I was saying, you were there live and witnessed it, which is worse.
Yeah.
And I was in my brother's wedding, so I didn't witness it live, but got all my phone blowing up constantly, and then watched the game after a shortened version. Thank goodness it was shortened.
By the way, before you continue, I'm
But it
still
was
appalled.
gross.
I'm still doesn't make sense that your brother got married on a Sunday. I know you're in Canada and like maybe the NFL isn't as popular potentially, but on a Sunday in the fall during or in winter during football season, come on, your brother got to know better than that. Sorry, you can continue. I
The, the
apologize.
the the logic is it's because now like I'm 30, he's 29. The logic was they got tired of being disappointed with New Year's Eve trying to make plans and then no one ever wanted to do anything. So they thought let's get married this day, and this year just happened to be that one in every 7 years where it landed on a Sunday. So oh well. But yeah, so I didn't get to witness it live, but I definitely saw everything after the fact, and it's even if we get past the first round of the playoffs, we're going to talk a lot, and the change needs to happen. I mean, even if we somehow made it to the Super Bowl, I still think change would need to happen this offseason. Too much just went spiraling out of control in the middle for me to sit there and say, okay, if we made the Super Bowl and lost again or something, yeah, let's keep going. Let's run it back again. No, I wouldn't even,
Well,
like at this point, I couldn't even.
well, I think it's a guarantee that there's going to be a new defensive coordinator because obviously Patricia
Well,
took over
yes.
such the size. So I want Jesse Minter from Michigan. Like what he did to Alabama yesterday, and I'm an Alabama fan, so it sucked that awful fourth down play call yesterday.
And we
And
looked at him last year. That's the
yeah,
worst
I don't
part
know if
about
he's
it.
going to want to leave Michigan, but if Harbaugh leaves and Harbaugh doesn't take him wherever he goes into the NFL, maybe the Eagles can convince him to come here. But and it's unfortunate because with what happened with Gannon, they didn't get to hire like Vic Fangio could be here right now if they would have known that he was going to go because Fangio would have stayed and not agreed. You know, the week leading up to the Super Bowl, agreed to be Miami's defensive coordinator. He would have stayed here and been the Eagles' defensive coordinator. And on the offensive side of the ball, Brian Johnson has to go. Like he definitely has to be the he definitely has he we saw it in 2018 when Carson when Doug Peterson promoted Carson's friend to be his offensive coordinator after Frank Reich left, and we're seeing it now in 2023 when Brian John after Shane Steichen leaves and the family friend and somebody that's known Jalen his entire life gets hired, and we see what's happening to the. I don't think anybody anticipated Jalen Hurts regressing this much, and he has, and it's a problem. But before we continue, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHerrell54, and follow Edge of Philly Sports on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and everywhere at Edge of Philly Sports. And if you're tuning in live, let us know your thoughts on what the hell has gone wrong with the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody anticipated this. Like heading into December, they had one win in December, and it was a game they very well could have lost. If Tyrod Taylor was the starter of the entire game against the Giants. I anticipate they're going to lose to the Giants this week. It's going to be ugly. Like there's nothing good is happening with this team right now, Connor, and
And
it's
they're
very
talking about
frustrating.
resting players, and to be completely honest, and I think I said this in our chat with other EOP guys, they should play. They should, but at this point, to me, it doesn't matter if you escape with your health or not. Things are just in such a bad spot, and we haven't figured things out. This was a stretch of games where if we blew at these teams out, we did what we were supposed to do, and maybe you can have some confidence heading to the playoffs. We didn't blow these teams out. We blew leads. The defense is terrible. The offensive play calling is atrocious. Jalen Hurts is not playing like we've seen him be able to play in
And
the
it's not
past.
like Jalen has been really bad, but he hasn't been like he set a standard. What does he always talk about? The main thing, playing to our standard. He set a standard last year that, I mean, let's be honest, it's just going to be really, really hard for him to hit that standard again. Like, has Jalen Hurts hit his ceiling? Like, and that's an issue because this is year one of this 5-year contract where you're getting paid $50 million a year. And if that's going to continue, that's not good. And that's going to be a second quarterback. Like it happened with Wentz. Is it going to happen with Hurts too? Like, I don't think so. But he definitely, we saw it. This is reminding me of 20 after the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017 and what happened in 2018 and 2019. You know, the regression of Carson. But after Doug Peterson lost his offensive coordinator, the offense went to crap. Well, this past offseason, Sirianni lost his offensive coordinator and his defensive coordinator. The defense, which nobody in the world thought the defense could be worse. It is worse than it was last year. And I'm not saying that Gannon would have been better this year, but at least there would have been continuity there. And it's unfortunate that the Eagles just couldn't get maybe their top choice, again, Vic Fangio, as the defensive coordinator. And then on the offensive side of the ball, look, Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, at least he had experience calling plays in the NFL. Brian Johnson had a year or two of experience calling plays at Florida. He's showing he is an experience. So something they need to bring in somebody that has experience, and this offense needs to change. We've heard Sirianni say that this is his offense. You know, it's pretty much the same as it was his first year, but there's a wrinkle here and a wrinkle there. Well, obviously, people have caught up because it's mad predictable, very predictable offense, and the teams can't, or excuse me, this offense, when they get into a first down, it'll be either a quick screen or a QB draw. Second down, you're going to hand it off to Swift. Third down, it'll be a screen. Like that last drive, or the drive that the Eagles had to get the field goal to go up 31-28 was atrocious. It was terrible. Like, so the first play is a QB draw. Okay, whatever. But why is the second play a QB draw? You have A.J. Brown. You have Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown had the longest play in the second half, an 18-yard slant. Where were the slants the entire game? Like, it's not like they went up against San Francisco's defense or Baltimore's defense. They went up against the freaking Arizona Cardinals, who have the worst rush defense in the NFL, one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL. And the Eagles offense struggled to run the ball. They had 91 yards, and they gave up, how many sacks did they give up? They gave up, they didn't
give up a sack. Yeah, I was gonna say.
But it felt like Jalen was under pressure a lot during the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when you talk about Brian Johnson, there's still reports out there. I saw a report just like 10 days ago before this game that said he still expects to get looks as a head coaching candidate. And I just don't know how maybe someone can buy in with confidence to the fact that, you know, that he could turn it around if it's his own offense or if it's his own team that he takes control of. But I mean, I think I've seen enough. Like at this point, I don't think he can even be on staff for Philadelphia next year. Sean Desai may be on staff next year, but at this point, like they were hoping to force him out. But I think that they're just going to have to bite the bullet, pay these guys and fire them is essentially what's going to end up happening, because nobody is leaving these jobs willingly. You have to fire them. So what they tried to pull with Sean Desai is just, and then you think when you're going through the hiring process, just like the circumstances around Denver right now. Free agents are set. There's already the reports out there the free agents are going to make them pay more because they don't trust that they're going to be treated right. How do you know the coordinators are going to feel like they're going to be treated right in Philadelphia after what they just did to Sean Desai? Like, I mean, if they had the choice, I honestly think they might try and pull the same stunt with Brian Johnson. Except in that regard, you can just say, I'm going to start calling the plays. And why to this day, maybe he is. We kind of presumed it last week. Maybe he is calling the plays, Nick Sirianni, but the best you can do at this point is just take the play calling. Whoever's been calling the plays during this super cold stretch should not be calling plays anymore. Not heading towards the playoffs, not like, and especially if it's Nick Sirianni's offense, you should be able to call it. But it's so hard to tell what's going on there, and the locker room is starting to fall apart. I see AJ Brown is expected to speak tomorrow. He
Look,
tweeted before this we went live. He is going to talk, but
and and most of the Philadelphia sports fans are on AJ's side. He has every reason to be frustrated. And it's the media, certain media members that are out there trying to paint AJ Brown in a bad picture. Nobody thinks he's in the wrong. This offense,
just like the report that came out the other day, and then it's like these people say it's like, oh, it's not clickbait. The title was all you needed to know that it was clickbait,
and
then you click into it, and some veteran. The people who these players that they find must be like the practice squad guys. I'm convinced these guys aren't the actual guys in the locker room.
They're making it up. They're trying to write a story. They're trying to get, like you say, clickbait. They're trying to get clicks. They're trying to get their name out there more. So I think they don't really have sources. They're just making it up. I think it wouldn't.
Do I believe it all stems from frustration with the coaching staff and the play calling? 100%. And every offensive player should be pissed off about that.
AJ Brown's not even the only one. Devontae he's spoken. He's probably done it more eloquently than a bunch of people, but he's frustrated. Everybody is showing their frustration with this offense. I don't blame AJ Brown one bit for not wanting to talk to the media because they'll try to twist his words and whatnot. Can you blame him for being frustrated? No, it's a very predictable offense. They don't take shots down the field as much. Like on that drive that they kicked the field goal, they did the 2 QB rushes and then the screen. That would, like, let's be real. Give your $25 million a year receiver who is Debo, who when he gets the ball, he's tough to tackle right away. Like, give him a chance. You see what teams, like, you see what the Niners do with Debo Samuel. You see what Dallas does with CeeDee Lamb. They get the ball in their hands and let them make plays. It's like they're scared to throw the ball down the field. They did once, I think, but I'm not counting the Hail Mary at the end. But they threw the one on third down to Devontae, which I think Devontae should have caught it. It was a tough catch, but it hit his hands. He should have caught it. But beyond that, I didn't see any other plays downfield. Everything is slow. It's either they want to hit the play downfield, so all the receivers run downfield, and we'll see if Jalen can find you open, or we're going to throw a screen, we're going to do a QB run. Nothing is intermediate. The middle of the field is wide open for Dallas Goedert, for a slant to Brown, for a slant to Smith, for like I mentioned, Goddard. I mean, Julio Jones had freaking 2 touchdowns. It's open, but they're not taking advantage of that, and it's so frustrating. Sitting on the couch watching, sitting in the stands watching, and us remedial fans know what's happening, know what the play is going to be, and if we know, professional defensive coordinators that are getting paid millions of dollars are going to know how to defend your high school Harry offense. And it's just frustrating to see week after week after week.
Yeah. And like you see it in the past charts that come out after the games, they still haven't figured out the middle of the field. Every single week, it's all down the left side, down the right side, varying areas of the field from the negative yardage all the way out to 20 to 30 yards down the field. But there's just like a little sprinkle of 3 or 4 down in the middle of the field where your strength is going to be those guys. Even like the use of DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell ended up with 4 targets for 4 receptions and 15 yards. DeAndre Swift only had one target. Look what DeAndre Swift was doing when they handed the ball off to him at times. Like, he can make people miss. He can make plays happen. He should be one of those guys you can trust catching a ball out of the backfield or going in the middle of the field. Like, you've 3 guys who I think can open up the middle of the field so easy and do so much work in the middle of the field, yet they just don't use Goddard, Brown, and Swift in the way that they could be used. And it's just so frustrating week in and week out to see that. And as much as I want to continue to bash this offense, I really think that the main thing here, well, first of all, the fact that they trusted the defense with, what was it, 2 minutes left to try and make a stand was insane. Whoever sat there, because you knew when he threw that pass that they were saying, we trust the defense to make a stop. And when they had not made a stop since like the second quarter, they were being trusted to go and make a
gave
stop.
Up 29 second half points. And I also think the other thing that was insane, and it made me chuckle, when Gannon did an onside kick. That was him pretty much like, I don't respect your defense, and I don't even think your offense is going to put the ball into the end zone. He's like, I think Kyler's going to go and score a touchdown. I don't think you're going to score a touchdown. So he was smart too, because if you kick that ball deep, the Eagles could melt the clock, get in the field goal range, kick the field goal, get out of there. He's like, you have a short field. I don't care. Kick a field goal. We're going to go down there and score. And that's exactly what happened. It was frustrating beyond belief that Jonathan Gannon, of all people, outcoached the hell of Nick Sirianni.
And because they were able to run so well, they dominated time of possession. They had almost 40 minutes of possession, the Arizona Cardinals. So they completely killed it on the back of James Conner and Michael Carter. Even Michael Carter had a really good game. Like, there was just nothing.
21 yards of rushing offense, if I'm not mistaken.
221. Yep.
The game plan was the exact game plan that Washington employed the year before to give the Eagles their first loss. Jonathan Gannon went back to that and was like, that's going to be our game plan. And they did it. They had over 440 yards of offense. And this is an offense that's one of the bottom 5 offenses in the NFL.
They were without their number 1 wide receiver too. Marquise Brown had just been placed on the IR.
Yep.
I was the names that kept popping up. I was like, I know them because I watch enough football. But if it's just a casual fan, they're going to be sitting there and being like, what is going on? Who's Elijah Higgins? Who's Greg Dortch? Who's these guys that were just making plays all game? And
the Eagles defense was scared to tackle James Conner. And he is a physical runner, but you spend all these assets on defensive line. We have Jordan Davis, we have Jalen Carter, you have Fletcher Cox still, Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams. And besides Milton Williams, like Milton Williams had a pretty good game. Besides him, everybody else didn't. And I am sick and tired of the defense where let's be unpredictable and let's drop Hassan Reddick back in the coverage 7 times. He's your best pass rusher. Why the hell are you dropping him back in coverage 7 times? They walk the linebackers up into the gaps. How many times did they blitz those linebackers? 0. They would get up there and then they would drop back. If I'm an offensive line and you notice tendencies by the defense, I'm not worrying about the line. I'm just going to focus on the defensive line. This is who I have. And I'm not even going to worry about the linebacker. And that's exactly what happened. Linebackers would come up on the line of scrimmage and then just drop back and then not be in position to make a play. It was beyond frustrating to watch the entire second half, especially.
Yeah, nobody's
points.
Nobody's fallen for the fake blitz by the Eagles defense. The shocking thing, the thing that will surprise a team, is actually bringing some sort of pressure and blitz. That is what would throw a team off. But they're not even trying at all. It's just like they're trying to save face. 3rd down, 4th down. Defense, horrible, atrocious. Again, they were 5 for 10 on 3rd downs, 2 for 2 on 4th downs. Horrible. And it's not like, when watching it, it's not like all those 3rd downs are 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2, like what we sometimes get our positioned into, and then, tush, push, boom, done. No, these were like long, like 5+ yards, 10, like almost 10+ yards in some situations. And it was just so for 13 total missed tackles is just inexcusable. It would be almost like somebody on the other sideline knew of this defense's weaknesses. I don't
I
know
wonder
why
who
he
that
would
could
ever
be.
know. I don't know who it could be, but it's like
I mean, they only had Jonathan
Josh
Gannon,
Sweat
who was the
3
defense.
missed tackles.
They
Just
only
running
had
the ball
Jonathan
at Josh
Gannon,
Sweat.
they have Jonathan Gannon, who was the defensive coordinator. They have Nick Rallis, who was the linebacker coach. I mean, Kaiser White is injured, but he's over
And Nick
there.
Rawlis would know best because that's always been the weakest unit. Any team that goes up against this Eagles defense knows.
Andre
Just go
Shasher's
look
over
at the
there.
Andre
Shasher was with the Eagles. Like they have a handful of guys that used to play for the Eagles over there. And you're right. It's like it's like Gannon took the depth chart, took the playbook, and was like, all right, I know we ran these certain defensive plays because we knew that the deficiencies of this player. Well, we're going to go right at those deficiencies this week, and that's exactly what they did. And this was like, we can call it like Arizona's Super Bowl because of Jonathan Gannon. Remember last year when Doug Peterson came back and the Jaguars jumped out to like a 14-0 lead or something, and while the Eagles were up 21 to 6 or whatever, 20 to 6, whatever it was, like I still didn't feel safe just because we saw what happened last week against the Giants, how the Eagles were up and the Giants made it a game. And that's exactly what happened. The Cardinals, the Eagles, or excuse me, the Cardinals came out, got the ball, go down the field, and just put points on the board and kept putting points on the board, and the Eagles couldn't make a stop. The defense has gotten worse since Matt Patricia took over. And I don't know if that's all on Patricia. Like, obviously, there's deficiencies on this defense, but, like, they haven't been able to get pressure on the quarterback. Still can't get off the field on third down. The middle of the field is wide open. I get it. They're missing Zach Cunningham and they're missing Darius Slay. But, man, it's just bad football being played all around on the defensive side of the football.
And I know that I saw, I don't know who had the tweet, but somebody tweeted at one point, there's no excuse for this defense because of how much we've invested from a picks and money perspective. I agree with the pick side of it. The money perspective, you're just paying aging veterans. Like, to me, that's been my biggest frustration. You look at who's at the top of the cap hits, it's Darius Slay, it's James Bradbury, it's Brandon Graham, it's Fletcher Cox. It's the same guys who are past their prime, on the decline, and you sit there and expect these guys, and you sit there and use money as a reason. No, this is just your typical Howie Roseman, how he rolls the dice with some of these veterans and says, Darius Slay just had a career year for last year was probably a career, one of his best of his entire career. Let's throw an extension at the guy, even though we have him locked in for 2 more years. It just does not make sense. And it was all just to kick some money down the road. And now you can't get out of that contract. Sure, it's not all on Darius Slay. James Bradbury's definitely been worse than Darius Slay. But as next year rolls on, and even the next year rolls on, we're going to sit there and we're going to say, why did we extend Darius Slay? I guarantee you it is slowly going to come to fruition, just like what's happening with James Bradbury. James Bradbury's decline might have started earlier, but you need to address the cornerback position. You need to do something at linebacker.
Bradbury will be gone. So we replaced 5 starters from last year's defense. You're going to have to replace, another 5? So Bradbury will be replaced. Bayard's going to be replaced. Your linebacker.
You could keep Bayard, but he's going to cost you a fortune. You're going to have to end up extending him, and it's just not going to make sense.
I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if he would come back. He will come back. Just like isn't he up there in age too? But look, you think about it. Bradbury. I'm going to say Bayard. 2 linebackers.
Shaq Leonard, Zach Cunningham. I mean, you could bring. I'm sure you can probably bring Cunningham back and Leonard back, but at this point, you need to do more than just bring these guys back. That's just not the answer.
They need to draft the line. Like, obviously, everybody wants Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I don't know. I think he's going in the first round. I've seen mock drafts where he goes in the second round. And I know we have 2 second-round picks, even though that second one isn't going to be as high as we thought because the freaking Saints are 8-8 and potentially going to win the division, and the Eagles could see them in the first round of the playoffs. But yeah, the Eagles, you think, Brandon Graham's probably not going to be back. I know he's not a starter. Fletcher Cox probably won't be back. He's a starter, but you have Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. But they have to figure it out. They have to start with getting a defensive coordinator in here that's going to be creative and get these guys moving. I don't see any stunts, don't see any blitzes. Everything is like the same. They're going to play on 3rd and 5. They're going to play 8 yards off, like, and that's an easy out route, especially when your corners aren't quick enough to be able to jump it. So like they have to get somebody in here who's going to be creative and let this defense get after the quarterback. And I never thought in a million years I was going to say I miss Jonathan Gannon, but like I'm starting to miss Jonathan Gannon. I just never thought I was going to say that.
And I mean, I just think this is a year where like Howie needs to get freaky in a draft. He just needs to do something he's never done before. I get it. You're one of them. There's a lot of people out there who are bought in. Ricks or Ringo, one of them is going to hit. They're the future of the secondary. I get it, but I would take a day one starter. Look at Sauce Gardner. Look at Devin Witherspoon. Look at some of these cornerbacks that have gone in the first round.
I mean, hindsight being 2020,
yep, Porter Jr.
They took Nolan Smith at 30.
A luxury
Joey Porter
pick.
Jr. was the first pick of the 2nd round.
Exactly. You took a luxury pick that you didn't really need, and you ended up seeing Joey Porter Jr. go. Like, I want a day one cornerback starter. I want one that you can draft. If Ricks and Ringo hit, great. We have this deep cornerback room someday. Are they both good? I don't think both hit. The fact, just where they were drafted and how they landed here, both of those guys are not going to hit. It's just not in the NFL script that 2 cornerbacks drafted as late as they were or signed as a UDFA, they just don't hit. Not 2 of them. So, I mean, at some point, you just have to say, we need to find the things that have become the deficiencies and fix it. Get freaky, get a linebacker in the room. You've drafted enough along the defensive line that you can leave it. Offensive line, Lane Johnson's getting older. You're going to have to definitely begin to think about the right tackle position eventually. Center, I mean, you've drafted enough guys who were supposed to be the heir apparent to Kelsey. Just kick someone inside and get a new guard. Like, eventually you have to go where you haven't been going and do something. I saw someone talk about going with some running backs because all the running back, like going with running backs on day 3 or something. Like, he has to start doing things he hasn't done before in the draft and trying to fill these holes for the future. Because at this point, all he does is just fill the holes for this limited time period that you don't know how long you're going to get. Bradbury, great surprise last year. Here's a new contract. And now he's going to be someone we think about as a cut candidate. Like, it's so frustrating to look at some of these circumstances. But you have to know at some point, a 28-year-old, and you're going to extend him for 3 years. He just had a really good year for you. And you think, let's give him 3 more years. Eventually, those just aren't going to hit. And they've started to rear their ugly head with Howie when they don't hit. And we have no one behind him, nobody to back them up. Ricks has been good, but he had a rougher day. He had a rougher day on Sunday. I mean, it was 3 for 5 for 28 yards. Not the worst he gave out. He was accounted for a touchdown. Not the worst, but still, you're going to have your days with these guys and the growing pains with these guys. And I just look back at some of these drafts, and I'm like, why take the luxury picks? Why not go for some needs once in a while?
And we know Howie has made moves, obviously getting Jalen Carter, trading for AJ Brown. But he's not at fault, if that makes sense. Like, he's to blame. A lot of blame can go to him just because he put the team together. And like now he's got a lot of work, and I don't think anybody anticipated this season going the way it goes. Like, I don't know, like maybe we would be feeling different if that stretch we had, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Bills, that stretch
Seahawks
of games that we had. If the Eagles didn't go 5-2 in that stretch or whatever it was, and say they went 2-5, and right now their record is 8-8 or 7-9, like, okay, like, all right, but like they were 10-1 at one point, and they had the number 1 seed, and Jalen Hurts was the front runner for MVP, and a month later they're 11-5. Jalen has dropped off the map of the MVP conversation, and the Eagles are going to be the 5 seed and on the road in the playoffs. Like, that is a problem, and you're not going to be able to fit. Like, Nick Sirianni says that he believes that they can fix it. Like, you're not going to be able to fix it in 2 weeks. You're just not. You're going to go on the road to Tampa or New Orleans. I mean, I guess Atlanta's an option, and even if you win that game, like the second round, you're going to San Francisco. Do you remember what happened when you faced San Francisco and Philly? Yeah, that might be worse than San Francisco.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Like, if you were gonna fix it, we needed to see improvements over these last two
And not
games.
to cut, we've seen and we've been questioning it since week 1. It's not like it's been a couple week thing. This has been happening since week 1. I remember when you were out and I had Dibes on with me. I asked them this question. I said, everybody says the Eagles haven't played their best game, that the best is yet to come. Well, is it really? And obviously it wasn't. I don't even know. Maybe the Bills game. But or the Dolphins or Bills game may be the best the Eagles played all year. But beyond that, they have been playing awful football the entire season and gotten really lucky. Like, remember that stretch where they were trailing at halftime for like 5 weeks straight and won all those games. Now they've been leading at halftime by multiple scores and they can't hold the lead in the second half, and now they're losing games. Like, it makes zero sense. And I don't know if they're just playing out the stretch right now, but this, like you mentioned it, like, the season just needs to end at this point. It's just frustrating to watch every Sunday. We want an easy game. We want something that's not going to be stressful. And that's all it is. It's nothing but stress. And I don't know how much longer we can take it.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying that we needed to see the improvement over the last 2 weeks against Arizona, against the Giants. We needed the opportunity to actually rest our players, not see how the other results go and just to rest our players and accept fifth or whatever. Like if we're resting players, it's likely because it's over. We're the 5 seed. We're facing somebody from the south, um, and that's just accepting it. And I mean, I get it. Like you talk to some people, and it's like they know they need to rest. They need this opportunity to rest because some of these guys have played career high snaps. That's on Howie too. You bring some of these older guys in and make them play career high snaps. This is another point where Howie's to blame. We shouldn't be sitting here week 15, week 16 and saying, oh, we need to find a way to get these guys off. They need to be able to get rest. We need to get that bye. Like I got my argument is we need to figure things out. It doesn't matter if we sit for a week. Do you think we're figuring anything out on a practice field? No, because I watch them. Well, we don't watch them, but we hear about the practices for 4 days a week. We see the reports that come out of these practices, and then we watch the games on Sundays and Mondays, and they have zero improvement, nothing to show for it. In fact, it seems like they get worse. So I think all the more they need to be playing every single week and trying to figure this out, because there's no way we are making it anywhere in the playoffs if we had a bye in the first round. I just think we would then come out high and mighty at the start and then do what we did against the Arizona Cardinals. Like, it just feels like this team cannot put together 60 minutes, and neither side can figure it out. And I mean, good on us if we can somehow get past the NFC South, although watching some of their games are some of the better games to watch right now because they're fighting their hearts out. They're trying to, like, all those teams, the Saints, the Bucks, the Falcons, they're trying to get in, and it shows that they have a heart to push through, where the Eagles, everything's just crumbling internally. They know, like, they admit they know they have a fractured locker room, and at this point just feels like we're just trying to get to the end of the season. And to me, 8-9, 9-8, missing the playoffs would feel a hell of a lot better right now, honestly, than limping in at 12-5 or 11-6 and meeting the easiest of the possible opponents in round one and maybe losing that. There's a chance that I would feel in my heart that we would lose that. I mean, we just watched for an entire half. The drives were this: touchdown, 6 minutes, 75 yards. Touchdown, 5 minutes, 77 yards. Touchdown, 4 minutes and 30 seconds, 77 yards. Touchdown, 2 minutes, 70 yards. I don't want to see that defense out on a football field. They literally gave up points on, honestly, you could call it 5 straight drives because they gave up the field goal as well right before the half. So I mean,
the Arizona Cardinals did not punt. Not punt. Now, going into the playoffs, there's a chance Slay could be back, Cunningham could be back. Does that even make a difference? And Avonte Maddox was active and he got hurt, so he'll be out. Like, and the fact that the Eagles didn't dress Roby, dressed Rashad Penny, and you know how many snaps Rashad Penny played? Zero. You know how many snaps Quez Watkins played? Zero. Like we have since the Cardinals didn't punt. Like I'm pretty sure I don't even know if Josh Jobe had played it. There were 4 players I think that played 0 snaps for the Eagles on Sunday. I don't know if that's ever happened. Like, what is the point? I still don't know why Rashad Penny's on the roster. Really don't. Like he's doesn't see the
feel
field.
like they just played him this Sunday just to say, okay, here's Rashad Penny. We're gonna dress him. So let's here
Now,
you go.
and I
You
get
can
it.
be quiet now and
They
nothing.
only had the ball for 20 minutes, so they only had like 44 plays or something. So it's tough to give all these players. Maybe they thought that they would have a big lead going into the fourth quarter, and they could put Mariota in and Penny in and Quez in and get the backups in, but that obviously didn't happen. Like when you have 44 plays and the opposing team has the ball for 40 minutes and racks up over 440 yards, and they're just killing the clock, and the defense can't get off the field, there's kind of nothing that you can do, but you have to change something, and they didn't change anything on Sunday.
And the
Offensively,
complete and what gets me, like, this complete inability to force turnovers is the only turnover that happened was Sidney Brown being in the right place for a Kyler Murray and
miscommunication.
his wide receiver miscommunicating. That was it. That was, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, great job. Well, it is great
It
job,
was a
Sidney
great
Brown,
return.
because it's a not great return run back. If he gets tackled anywheres along there, I don't
Finished.
even trust the offense to get a point out of that. So good on him to know that he had to go and get that point because the offense wasn't going to do it for him. But still, at the end of the day, this complete inability to get pressure on the quarterback with the investment you've put into the front four, I get it. All you do is bring forward, bring forward, bring forward. But eventually, some of these guys got to get home. Reddick's on a
Josh
big
Sweat has been
contract.
bad
Sweat's
this
on a
year.
big contract. Jalen Carter was drafted 10th overall. Like, Jordan Davis was a high draft pick. Like, eventually, these guys, some of these guys just got to figure out
Josh
ways to
Sweat
get
has been
home.
terrible this year. Like I don't know. Did you see the one play where it was a bootleg, or it was a play action, and Sweat crashed down going at the quarterback or going at the running back while Kyler Murray rolled out to the side that Sweat is and just dropped it off. Like it was awful. Kenny, thanks for joining us. He goes, wow, look, the balloon is up there, done, period. The coaching is so bad, it's ridiculous, and they have been exposed, and I'm not bashing or even talking crazy. The chemistry is drastically damaged. I see it in their eyes.
Yeah,
I
like
think it's a
I
coaching
see,
thing. So
and that's
wait, hold on.
my
Jordan Mailata said today, I think it was today, Jordan Mailata said that, look, talking about AJ, he's still a leader. Like AJ planned a team get together to keep the camaraderie, keep the chemistry going. I think as a team, the players are together. They don't trust the coaching staff, and I can't blame them. You see the offense, it's very predictable. You see the defense, they can't get off the field. And obviously with the demotion of Desai and Patricia taking over, nothing has changed. Everything is still the same. So like the team itself, the players, I think they're fine. But AJ Brown doesn't trust, Brian Johnson and the coaching staff. I don't blame AJ Brown, like I said before. That's the issue. That's the thing that's the big problem. Like the team, the players, they're together. They'll play for each other. But look, we all love Nick Sirianni, but it gets to a point where his actions, his demeanor, it doesn't hit right when you're not winning. And that's what's happening right now. And I apologize for cutting you off.
No, you make a good point about Nick Sirianni. When we're winning, he's up in the opponent's fans' faces. He's yelling, he's screaming, he's all about it. But you got to be all about it the same way when you're losing. You got to figure out a way to get your team buying into it. And it feels like what seemed like a well-built culture, and like there was he was headed in the right direction, has just collapsed before our eyes. It's really sad to watch. And there's no emotion on the sideline. Like eventually Jalen Hurts is getting paid a lot of money. This guy's got to stop being just emotional, walk to the sideline, put my jacket on, sit there and go, Like eventually you have to show a bit of emotion. And like, I get it. We like that he doesn't show emotion sometimes. In front of the media, good. On the sideline, okay, you don't need to be Patrick Mahomes. You don't need to be dropping F-bombs in the ref's ear because your guy was clearly offsides, okay? You don't have to do that type of emotion. But show some emotion to get the guys going, because if the players are playing for each other, because it feels like the coaches are in their offices and the players are in the locker room and they don't visit, they don't intermingle, they just show up on game day and they do their thing. But like, you have to show some emotion. If you're playing for the players, you have to be that guy. Somebody's got to step up. And I feel like I'm just getting tired of them panning over. You pan over to other sidelines. Baker Mayfield, full of energy, hyping people up. Patrick Mahomes. Some weeks I sit there and I'm like, you're obnoxious. I can't stand you. Some weeks you know that they're trying to play for each other. You see the frustration with Kelsey and Mahomes and some of them, and you know they want to win. Then you pan to the Eagles sideline. They're all sitting in their own spots. Jalen Hurts, the penultimate leader who's supposed to be the guy, is sitting there with his arms crossed like this, and just not a care in the world whatsoever, trying to figure anything out. It's frustrating.
It is. And even when Carson was here, we would see Carson on the tablet. We'd see him talking.
And he was emotional. He was emotional. Like,
you don't even see Jalen on the tablet. And I don't know, like, I get it. That's probably not his thing, but you need to figure out what's going on. Like, and I don't know. Look, we all love Jalen, but you're right. He's making a lot of money. He's got to find a way. He might, in the locker room, behind the scenes, he might be that emotional guy. He might be that guy that goes up to everybody. And we just don't see it on the sideline. He's not that type. He doesn't come out like and dap up. You know how some opposing quarterbacks, they'll come out early, they'll greet each other on the field at the 50 or whatever, dap each other up, talk. He doesn't do that. He doesn't come out of the tunnel until he's ready to warm up, like in full pad. So, like, that's not him, I guess. But it's still, like, frustrating because we know he's an emotional guy behind the scenes. Like, I think we can see it. He shows, at least talking-wise, emotion, in his press conferences. But when it comes to the game, you're right. He sits on the sideline, just in his jacket, looks around, doesn't really talk to anybody. Brian Johnson will go over every once in a while, and I don't blame him if he doesn't want to talk to Brian Johnson because he's an idiot. But, like, go up to your offensive line, be like, hey, if he took a sack or if he held the ball too long, say, hey, I got you next time. You guys are doing good. If there was a missed block or something, just be like, look, it's a fine. We'll take care of it. If the receiver runs the wrong route or if he missed the receiver, go up. We don't see that. And again, I'm not saying that's a big problem, but I know that there were reports out talking about that. And again, I think the Philly media is really trying to create something that's not there, especially with AJ Brown. But maybe there could be a tad bit of truth there when it comes to the whole, like, maybe the team would react better, or the team would like to see Jalen go up and down the sideline. He just hasn't. And then not everybody's that way. Again, Carson was that way, and it worked for a year, maybe two, and then it got, like, his career derailed. Now he's the backup in Los Angeles. But, like, I'm trying to think of, like, Lamar does that. Lamar, he talks to his team all the time on the sideline. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes. Dak Prescott does it. As annoying as he is and as overrated as we think he is, he does it. And, this is the best he's played in his career. So, I don't know. Tua does it. Like, watching Hard Knocks. Like, Tua's always talking to Tyreek or whatever and talking to his back.
You just have to watch the pan to the sideline of pretty much every team or any team that even Kyler Murray was doing it. And Kyler Murray's the guy Kyler Murray's the guy that's supposed to, all he does is play video games. He doesn't watch tape. He doesn't do anything. But I think Kyler Murray looked better than Jalen Hurts this past week. Whether he did it with way less. Like, James Conner had a really good game, but, like, you look
25 of 31. He had 6 incompletions. One was that interception, had 3 touchdowns. James Conner went off for $128.
Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson, Rondale Moore, Elijah Higgins. They converted wide receiver to tight end. Like, and I get it, Trey McBride, we can't put him in the same vein because, he's kind of started to make a name for himself and you expect him to have games. Those other guys, you don't really expect to have much for games. And they all contributed.
Looking at some of the numbers, DeAndre eclipsed 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. He had 13 carries, 61 yards. He averaged close to 5 yards a carry. That's a first down every 2 or 3 rushes. Like, don't run with your quarterback. Let the running back, it's in his title, run the football. Jalen was 18 of 23. Didn't have only 167 yards. Didn't have a bad game, but like, I don't know. He had 8 carries for 25 yards. I think that was too much. AJ Brown, four catches for 53 yards. Got it. 5 for 47. Julio, 2 for 34 and 2 touchdowns. Devontae, 3 for 30 and got hurt. He's probably not going to play this week. Like, just looking at it, again, it was 20 to 6. It was 21 to 6 at halftime. 21 to 6. You don't give up 29 freaking points in the second half. You just don't do that. And that's what the Eagles did.
Yeah, and I mean the offense just has to hit on some more plays too. Like, I mean, you at that point in the game, like, you knew you couldn't trust this defense. You knew this offense needed to start producing something or running the clock down more. Like, you had a 7-minute touchdown drive, but then you had a punt after 1 minute and 38 seconds. You had a field goal after 2 minutes and 53 seconds. That's your possessions. So you had one worthwhile drive to talk about in the second half. The others didn't even make it to 3 minutes, and it came out to only 3 points. Like, you just had to find a way. And, like, I mean, one of the 7 of the points that they got came off an interception touchdown. Like, this offense just can't seem to figure it out, and this defense can't figure it out. And like you said, does it matter if Zach Cunningham, Darius Slay are back? Yes, it matters to an extent, but there's still things. There's still stuff that needs to be worked out. This season needs to end, and there needs to be a major look in the mirror for a lot of people. And listen, Jacina Anderson is no better than any of the Philly media as far as a clickbait person, but she posted that tweet to get people riled up. The changes coming in the NFC East, and we don't expect this. We expect Rivera to probably be out the door. We expect the Giants to remain the same. I don't think Daboll's going anywhere. Martindale might be, but that's not big. That's not unexpected. What's big and unexpected is something in Philly. And I feel like something's going to happen. I don't know if Nick Sirianni is going to be the scapegoat, and it's a whole new coaching staff. I don't know if it's that, but I wouldn't be shocked at Brian Johnson being gone, and the defensive coordinator is gone. Yeah. So what shock and move can come out of Philadelphia? It would have to be Sirianni. It would have to be. And how crazy would it be after what could be a 12-5 or 11-6 season, and you're going to turn over your coaching staff?
Or they trade Jalen Hurts in the offseason. That would be shocking. I don't think it's not going to happen, but I'm just saying.
I don't think it'll happen either. I think that would be the first
won the Super Bowl in 2017 and got fired in 2 years later, 3 years, whatever it was. I think it was 2 years later. I get that Sirianni's the first coach in Eagles history to go to the playoffs his first 3 years. I've been to a Super Bowl already, but I think Jeffrey Lurie values culture, and if the culture in the locker room is done terrible, like is bad because of him, he'll I don't think he's shy of letting him go.
And there's still been a ton of praise for Howie. So I mean, I don't think Howie's going anywhere. I think I think he just got extended this past offseason, and he's producing for many other franchises very legitimate executives. Like, there are a lot. We're probably going to lose about half of the front office, and we don't even realize it, because year over year, the turnover that happens in that front office is crazy, and the only constant is Howie Roseman. So then that's because they just produce whatever it is. They produce very legitimate front office candidates.
This is going to be the second year in a row that the Eagles coaching staff is going to change big time. Like, remember coming into the year, we all thought Michael Clay should have been fired, and he's the best coordinator we have. Like, the special teams unit is the best unit that the Eagles have right now. They're going to need a new defensive coordinator, most likely going to need a new offensive coordinator. And I pray that if they do get a new offensive coordinator, that Sirianni allows whoever they hire to run whatever. Like, bring in Kellen Moore. Like, let Kellen Moore run his offense. Or I don't want to bring Frank Reich back. Like, I don't want that. But, like, they need what Todd Monken, I think that's his name, right? Todd Monken has done for Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. That's what the Eagles need to hire for their next offensive coordinator.
Anthony says, I blame Howie and Jeff because they could have had any coach they wanted, because there was lots of people who wanted to coach, but instead hired Sirianni. And also, to to why have analytics team and analytics don't work.
In terms of the coach thing, like, did you want Brandon Staley? Brandon Staley didn't want to come here because he didn't want to work with Howie. Like, Brandon Staley was awful. Josh McDaniels is awful.
Like the names that we were about to hire are now failed head coaching candidates in first quicker time than Sirianni.
You have to give Jeffrey Lurie one thing. The coaches that he hires are like Ray Rhodes took the team to the playoffs in his first couple of years. Andy Reid was Andy Reid. Chip Kelly went to the playoffs his first 2 years. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. And Nick Sirianni's been to a Super Bowl, been to the playoffs. Like, if Jeff Lurie knows what he's doing, he knows how to hire a coach. Just because he doesn't go with the big name or doesn't go with the guy we anticipate like he should go with, doesn't mean he's doing a bad job. Does it seem like they hire puppets? Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But they do know what they're doing. It's after that initial coaching staff, because the initial coaching staff is usually really good. But then when somebody
that's the one that gets picked apart, because then they go and they hire the defense. But then they also hire the wide receivers. Got hired away.
Both offense and defense went downhill. Like, that's where the issue is. So they have to find a way to get replacements in here that can continue to uphold the standard that the Eagles want to play to.
And you got to find someone who's willing to like be that second for a year and then stick around. Because like Nick Rawlins was supposed to be a guy that could have been a defensive coordinator candidate. And he got picked away. Like, there's people, Wilson, there's guys that just get picked away out of the staffs as well. Like, when these
should have been hired as the defensive coordinator. And when they hired Desai, he wanted to leave. He left, went to Baltimore, and now Baltimore secondary is looking really good. So again, the guys that I think, like, I know we're like a little early talking about who they should interview anyway for defensive coordinator. Jesse Minter from Michigan, Denard Wilson, maybe even Al Harris, the cornerback, the secondary coach from Dallas. Like, he what he has done with that secondary, Deron Bland, like, he deserves a chance.
Without their top cornerback, whether we like it or not, Trevon Diggs is not in the picture.
I would consider Brandon Staley if he would come here to be a defensive coordinator, but I don't know if he will. But like, they need, something needs to change. They need to go outside the box. Sean Desai, I get it, was sort of outside the box, but it definitely was a failed hire. And it showed big time this year. And Patricia hasn't been any better since he took over.
No, there's some in like some people were saying, oh, you're just playing with the cards you're dealt. And to an extent, like, you can't fix the issues with James Bradbury. You can't fix the age of some of these guys, but you got some talent in there, and some of it's been underutilized. Some of it's been, overutilized. Like, some of the older guys have played more than they probably should have played. But at the end of the day, there's enough talent there that, like, what we witnessed on Sunday, 5 consecutive drives with at least 3 points or more put on the board, should not happen. I feel like there's enough to work with that you can make something happen. And it just, how many 3rd and longs did we witness, or how many 3rd and 5 plus, which are, from an analytics standpoint, a fairly difficult play to make, was completed with lots to give? Like, I would watch some of those drives and it was like 3rd and 9 and they come out of it with like almost 20 yards. Like, you're not just talking that you're giving it up. Oh, they got to the sticks. It was 3rd and 9.5. We were so close to stopping them. No, they just give up 3rd and longs and then give up a ton of additional yardage on top of it. And whatever it is from a run defense standpoint, these guys just cannot tackle it. And would it help to get some help in the linebacker room? Absolutely. But guys like Josh Sweat need to just be able to figure out how to tackle. Like, Josh Sweat missed 3 tackles. Milton Williams, you said, had a good game. He also missed 2 tackles. The guys inside got to be able to make tackles or enough contact to stop. Like, they're not even making contact to throw a runner off at this point. The runners just go find a hole and just go and go and go. Like, there's just so much in this defense, and they just need a really competent defensive coordinator, a really good coordinator. And Sean Desai was supposed to be really smart. And I don't deny that maybe he's really smart. I just think maybe he's ahead of his time for a defensive coordinator role. Maybe his day will come again. but I just don't think that now was his time. I think it may have been too soon, and we'll
I
see
also
what the
think,
offseason brings. But
and I also think that training camp has to be a little tougher now. Like we talk about how they had to have easy, they're always healthy coming out of training camp. Well, maybe you need to get a little tougher. Tackle, like Pittsburgh's always physical. Baltimore is physical. San Francisco's physical. We need to get back to the physical roots.
Anthony
Anthony
says,
says,
I think Jeff and Howie don't know what they're doing because Howie keeps screwing up and gets chance and after chance and nothing happens. If I was Jeff, I would fire everyone and hire Jim Harbaugh and let him pick his assistants. First of all, I don't know if Jim Harbaugh is leaving
I think he is
Michigan
leaving.
either. He's probably going to leave, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if I think Jim Harbaugh would work under a Jeffrey Lurie. Like, I don't know if he would want to be like, because like you said, they kind of like puppets. They like guys who will like listen a bit to Howie, listen a bit to Jeff, just build the culture and stuff. And I don't know if Jim Harbaugh would be able to do that. But and then Howie, okay, he screws up for a year, he fixes it. He screws up for a year, he fixes it.
I
That's
like
why we
Howie.
can't let him go because somehow he always fixes things in
I
a
like
way. But
I like Howie the money guy. And I've said that a lot. Like when it
and
comes to
Howie the
money, when it comes
trade
to
guy, he
contracts, I
can
love that. I want a football guy like to be the general
you need
manager.
somebody in his ear that he will actually listen to.
Joe
That
Douglas,
that
Andy
will
Weidel,
yeah, like the ones that have gone off and built. I mean, Joe Douglas. I
Andrew
mean, the
Barry.
Jets are a bit messy, but I mean, they're trending in the right direction. He's had guys go off and have teams start to trend in the right direction. But yes, we like Howie the trade swindler and the money guy, but we don't like Howie the football mind because he's like, look at what I got you, and then you
He
look
thinks
at the
he's the
guy on
smartest
the
guy in the room
field
and tries to
and
outsmart everybody else. And I agree, Anthony. As a head coach, Brandon Staley is terrible. As a defensive coordinator, I would take him as a defensive coordinator, not
he
somebody
is
to
a
run the.
terrible coach, and he's the type of guy who's going to go out there and get your whole team injured and have no chance at the playoffs. Look at what happened with the Chargers; it's just brutal. But yeah.
All right, it was a brutal game. The Eagles have their last week 18, last regular season game against the New York Giants this weekend. Up at MetLife, 4:25 game. Unfortunately, they should have made it a 1:00 so that we can get the misery over with. But no, it's 4:25, and hopefully Washington shows up and beats Dallas again like they did last year in the last week of the regular season. But I highly doubt that. It'd be awesome if they did, because then the Eagles could get the 3 seed and have a home game. But we could have potentially seen Jason Kelsey, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox play their last games at the Link as Philadelphia Eagles. Who knows? Unless something crazy in the playoff happens and the Eagles are able to host like the Los Angeles Rams or something in the NFC Championship game at the Link of the 2 wildcard teams. All right, so before we finish off, Connor, let's go to our unheralded player of the week for Week 17 in the National Football League. Who you got?
I'm going with, and I think I went with a Green Bay Packer last week too for some reason. I can't remember, but I'm going with Bo Melton, Green Bay Packer wide receiver. He was 6 for 9 for 105 yards and a TD. In a game, Jaden Reed was back, but they still haven't had Christian Watson back in a big win over Minnesota, 33-10. Green Bay will be an interesting study in the offseason to see what they do, because I don't know. I think they got a quarterback in Jordan Love, but
And
there's some other
their
things that need to
weapons,
be worked out.
their weapons are all like late round draft picks. I think all their receivers and tight ends account for only like $12 million.
Oh, yeah, like Luke Musgrave will be back and healthy.
Romeo
Watson
Dobbs,
hopefully will get healthy. Romeo Dobbs,
Meeks,
Jaden Reed's really good. Like they got wet, but they're gonna have other things to figure out. But I mean, I think at a minimum, you got to give Jordan Love another chance.
Oh,
I think he's done that much. But
they have a chance.
what about you?
Playoffs. I'm going to go with Jawan Johnson of the New Orleans Saints. He had 8 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown in the Saints' 23-13 win over Tampa, and that's a big win for them. Both teams are 8-8, and I think Tampa has Carolina this week. The Saints have the Falcons. So if Carolina can show up and beat Tampa and the Saints win, the Saints are NFC South champs, and that's where the Eagles could be going. We'll see where they go. It's going to be Tampa or New Orleans probably. The long shot to be Atlanta, but you never know.
I mean, I get it. The NFC South is ugly, but man, do they ever play? Man, now each week I look at the scores in some of the games, and like they're never fully blown out completely. These teams, like they play hard and they try and get the wins. They just they just will forever be 9-8 teams and make the playoffs until one team finds a way to really step into the limelight and find the right answer. But right now, no.
Hopefully we have more than 2 weeks of Eagles football to talk about, but something tells me that we only have about 2 weeks of Eagles football to talk about before we prepare for the offseason.
This could be true, and maybe we need a couple weeks off anyways after that to just digest this entire season. But I mean, we
even want to talk the week 8, the regular season finale? Like, do we want to do a preview show? I mean,
we didn't get to do preview shows the last 2 weeks because holidays messed with everything. So we are going to talk about the Giants. But I mean, do we want to talk about it? Not really, because I mean, when you ask us keys to the game, we're probably going to say a key that we just say every week that just isn't working. That's clearly missing the door and not opening anything up at all. So, but we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it was crazy to think that I think when on my return episode like 4 weeks ago, I said, barring something drastic, all these coordinators are going to be back. And now I'm looking, now we're staring down the barrel.
You came back and the Eagles went downhill? No, I'm kidding.
We're staring down the barrel of maybe even our head coach getting fired. However you want to read into that Josina Anderson report, Brian Johnson's firing would not be a surprise. The defensive coordinator position is already open for hire. I don't know what it's going to be, but we're going to see. Let's at least get through to this end of the season and see what happens.
The Giants may very well beat the Eagles, like the way that the Eagles are playing. But that could also be if Dallas jumps out to a 14-0, 21-0 lead, the Eagles are going to take all the starters out. Mariota's going to play. Like that I can see happening. I know, Connor, I know you said earlier that everybody should play, try to get into rhythm going into the playoffs. But again, that field at MetLife, and it's supposed to be snowy-ish weather in there and along in this area. So, and up in Jersey, so like that could take into account. Like you're definitely not winning anything if Lane Johnson gets hurt, you're definitely not winning a playoff game. But like you may not win it with him, but you're definitely not winning without him. So we'll see what happens this week, and obviously it's going to depend on what happens. Both teams are playing at the same time. So if Dallas jumps out to a 14-0, 21-0 lead and hits halftime and the Eagles are tied, like you can just be like, all right, Mariota, go out there. Jalen, rest up, don't get hurt, and we'll see you.
Jalen, pick up a tablet and watch past games and figure something
out. Watch your film from last year and do that. All right, thanks for all the comments, Connor. Thank you as always for riding along, in this crazy season that
I've come back and had one Victor Green hour, and it's been kind of depressing.
Man, I don't even know what to say to that. Anyway, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LGRaw54. Follow Edge of Philly Sports on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook at Edge of Philly Sports. We will probably be back later this week to get you ready for the Eagles Giants. While everybody's pissed off at the Eagles, everybody's still going to watch the game and be pissed off at the Eagles some more. And then next week we'll get you ready for the wild card weekend in the NFL, super wild card weekend in the NFL. We'll know who the Eagles are playing and probably what time and what day.
It should just drop the super name because it's going to happen every year. It's not super anymore. More games.
It's because it's 6. I think it's 6 games. It's 2 Saturday, 3 Sunday, and they go to Monday. And one of the wild card games is strictly on Peacock. Hopefully the Eagles game isn't that, but who cares? But yes, so thank you all for tuning in. We will see you later this week. Thank you for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.